My name is Olivia Morgan, 32 years old, and I never expected to be called into HR on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The confusion in my stomach turned to ice when I spotted my sister Emily, my boss Richard, and my best friend Natalie watching from across the hallway with strange expressions. Something was terribly wrong. The security of my secret ownership of the company suddenly felt like both a shield and a burden as the HR director's words shattered my world. "You're terminated effective immediately. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people closest to you, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe to hear how I turned the tables on those who tried to destroy me." Growing up, I was always the responsible one. My sister Emily, 3 years younger, was the golden child, beautiful, charming, and somehow always managing to capture our parents' attention without even trying. When Emily struggled with homework, our parents hired a tutor. When I needed help with advanced calculus, I was told to figure it out because I was the smart one. This pattern repeated throughout our childhood. Emily's smallest achievements celebrated with dinners out, while my academic honors and sports trophies earned brief nods of acknowledgement. Don't get me wrong, I loved my sister. Our relationship was complicated, a mix of sisterly affection and unspoken competition. But those early years taught me something invaluable. I could only truly count on myself. While Emily relied on our parents' constant support, I developed independence and business acumen early, starting a neighborhood tutoring service at 14 and managing my own stock portfolio by 17. College furthered our different paths. I worked 2 jobs while earning my business degree, then secured a scholarship for my MBA. Emily bounced between 3 different majors before settling on communications, her education fully funded by our parents. During family gatherings, Emily would entertain everyone with sorority stories while my academic achievements were met with polite smiles and quick subject changes. My career began with typical entry-level struggles, but I worked relentlessly, moving between companies to gain diverse experience. Everything changed when I met Victoria Wheeler, a marketing pioneer who became my mentor and champion. Victoria saw something in me that others missed. Not just ambition, but vision. "You understand what most marketers forget," Victoria told me over lunch one day. "That behind every data point is a human being making a decision based on emotion, then justifying it with logic." Our mentor-mentee relationship blossomed into friendship, making it all the more devastating when Victoria revealed her terminal cancer diagnosis. With 6 months to live and no heirs, Victoria made me an unexpected offer. "I want to sell you Pinnacle Marketing," she said from her hospital bed. "Not because you're my friend, but because you're the only person I trust to honor what I've built." The arrangement was unusual. Victoria wanted me to understand the company from the ground up before taking visible leadership. The legal structure gave me majority ownership, but a special clause kept this information private for 3 years, with only the company's board attorney aware of the arrangement. To everyone else, the company had been placed in a private trust. Sometimes, the best leadership comes from listening rather than speaking first, Victoria said. "Work your way up honestly. When the time comes, you'll know what Pinnacle truly needs." After Victoria's passing, I honored her wishes. Despite owning the company, I applied for a marketing executive position at Pinnacle through normal channels. My credentials earned me the job on merit, and for the past 3 years I'd worked diligently, earning promotions while learning every aspect of the company's operations. My closest ally at Pinnacle became Natalie Chen, a brilliant strategist, with a quick wit and seemingly boundless energy. We bonded during late nights completing a crucial pitch for an athletic wear client. Our friendship grew through shared challenges, supporting each other through Natalie's painful divorce, my father's heart attack, career setbacks, and triumphs. Our Thursday wine nights became sacred tradition, a space for unfiltered conversations about everything from workplace politics to dating disasters. "You're the only person in this cutthroat place I fully trust," Natalie confessed during one such evening. The irony of her not knowing I owned the company always made these moments bittersweet, but I'd made a promise to Victoria. My professional relationship with CEO Richard Townsend had begun positively. A former finance executive with a reputation for turning companies around, Richard initially seemed impressed by my work ethic and innovative campaigns. My first 2 years brought exemplary performance reviews and increasing responsibilities. Olivia consistently exceeds expectations, read my second-year evaluation. Her strategic thinking and execution have directly contributed to our 22% revenue increase in the Northeast region. Then Emily graduated with her communications degree but struggled to find meaningful employment. After 6 months of temporary positions and increasingly desperate complaints to our parents, I offered to help. I could put in a word at Pinnacle, I suggested during Sunday dinner at our parents' house. There's an entry-level position in the content team that might be a good fit. My parents beamed with gratitude. Emily hugged me with genuine excitement. You're the best sister ever. I promise I won't let you down. With my recommendation, Emily secured the content coordinator position. I was genuinely happy to help her start her career, proud to see her professional journey begin. The first weeks felt harmonious. Emily seeking my advice, bringing me coffee in the mornings, introducing me to colleagues as my amazing sister who got me this job. I believed we were finally moving past our childhood dynamics into a balanced, adult relationship. Our parents called me repeatedly to express their gratitude, and for once, I felt fully seen by them. Little did I know I had just invited a Trojan horse into my professional sanctuary. Emily's first month revealed the challenges of her inexperience. I noticed errors in her client presentation data and quietly fixed them before anyone else could see. When she missed a content deadline for our healthcare client, I stayed until midnight completing it, telling the account manager there had been a miscommunication about the timeline. You saved me, Emily whispered gratefully when I told her, squeezing my hand. I'm still learning the ropes. I remembered my own steep learning curve and was happy to help. That's what sisters are for, I replied, truly believing we were supporting each other. Despite these professional stumbles, Emily's social integration was flawless. Within weeks, she became the office favorite. She brought homemade banana bread to morning meetings, organized happy hours, and remembered everyone's birthdays. Emily had always possessed natural charisma, drawing people into her orbit with effortless charm. It was a skill I'd admired, if sometimes envied. What caught me off guard was how quickly Natalie and Emily bonded. I had introduced them hoping my sister and best friend would get along, but I didn't expect them to become inseparable. The first warning sign came when Natalie canceled our standing Thursday wine night. Emily invited me to this networking event with the creative team, she explained, sounding genuinely torn. We can reschedule for tomorrow? One cancellation became several. I started noticing inside jokes between them during meetings. Silent. Glances, stifled laughter, references I didn't understand. When I asked about them, I'd get vague responses. Oh, just something that happened at happy hour. Or, you had to be there. Richard's interest in Emily's career progress seemed unusually invested for a CEO dealing with an entry-level employee. He began stopping by her desk for casual chats, offering private mentoring sessions on company strategy, and inviting her to executive lunches I was conspicuously not included in. Richard says my perspective as a newcomer is valuable, Emily explained when I asked about these meetings. He thinks I have a fresh eye for the changing market demographics. The first major red flag appeared during the quarterly strategy presentation for our largest retail client. Emily was scheduled to present the content calendar, a straightforward task for her role. The night before, she called me panicking. I don't think my section is strong enough, she admitted. Could you look it over? I spent hours reworking her presentation, adding strategic insights about consumer engagement patterns and potential new market segments. I even created custom graphics to illustrate key points. Just use whatever helps, I told her, emailing the file. We want the client to be impressed with the team. During the presentation, I watched in disbelief as Emily presented my entire strategy section word for word, including my specific recommendations for targeting suburban millennials, without any attribution. Worse, she had removed my name from the contributor slide entirely. When Richard praised Emily's innovative thinking and strategic insight beyond her experience level, I waited for her to acknowledge my contribution. Instead, she smiled and thanked him for his mentorship, adding, "I've been studying market trends in my free time." That evening, I discovered files missing from my computer, specifically research for an upcoming pitch to a major sportswear brand. The IT department claimed it must have been a system glitch, but restoration was impossible. I had to recreate weeks of work over a single weekend. Conversations between Emily, Natalie, and sometimes Richard began stopping abruptly when I approached. Once, bringing coffee to the conference room, I clearly heard my name followed by laughter, before the room fell silent as I entered. "Just discussing weekend plans," Natalie explained unconvincingly, avoiding eye contact. After just 4 months, Emily received a promotion to junior manager, an advancement that typically required at least a year of proven performance. The announcement came via company-wide email highlighting her exceptional contributions and natural leadership abilities. That same week, Natalie's behavior in meetings shifted dramatically. Previously, she had always supported my ideas, often building on them or defending them against criticism. Now she remained silent, or worse, found subtle ways to undermine them. "I'm not sure Olivia's approach aligns with our current direction," she commented during a strategy session, despite having enthusiastically approved the same concept in our preparatory meeting. I began noticing exclusion from email chains directly relevant to my projects. Decisions were being made without my input, then presented as finalized when they eventually reached me. Richard's criticism of my work increased, focusing on minor issues while overlooking substantial achievements. "Your reporting lacks the innovative touch we're looking for," he commented on a comprehensive analysis that had taken weeks to prepare. The following day, I saw Emily presenting a remarkably similar framework that received his effusive praise. During a client dinner, our pharmaceutical account director Marcus pulled me aside with concern in his eyes. "Is everything okay, Olivia? The dynamics seem different lately. You've always been our strongest strategist, but I'm getting mixed messages about who's leading our account." I maintained professionalism, attributing changes to new team structures. But his observation confirmed my suspicions weren't just paranoia. The physical manifestation of my changing status came when Emily moved into a window office while I remained in my cubicle, despite my senior position. The justification was that she needed privacy for client calls, though my client portfolio was 3 times larger. The final confirmation of deliberate undermining came when I discovered unauthorized access to my confidential client files. The system log showed access from Natalie's credentials at times she was in meetings with Emily and Richard. When confronted, Natalie claimed IT must have made a mistake with login tracking. "Why would I need to sneak into your files?" she asked with practiced innocence. "You always share everything with me anyway." But I had stopped sharing everything weeks ago, setting information traps that were now springing exactly as I had feared. I decided to address my concerns directly, starting with Emily. I invited her to dinner at my apartment, cooking her favorite lasagna and creating a comfortable atmosphere before broaching the subject. "I've noticed something concerning," I began, carefully. "In meetings and presentations, ideas I've shared with you are being presented as your original work. The retail strategy presentation, for example." Emily's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness in seconds. "Are you serious right now? You're supposed to be helping me succeed, not keeping score." "I am helping you," I explained. "But there's a difference between mentoring and taking credit for someone else's work. You're just jealous I'm finally succeeding at something," she snapped, pushing her plate away. "My entire life you've been the successful one, the smart one, the responsible one. The moment I start doing well, you can't handle it." "This isn't about competition," I tried again. It's about professional ethics and respect. You've always needed to be better than me, Emily continued as if I hadn't spoken. You couldn't stand that Mom and Dad gave me attention, so you had to excel at everything. Now you can't stand that people at work might actually like me better than you. She left before dessert, slamming my apartment door and leaving me stunned by the level of resentment beneath her words. My conversation with Natalie was equally unsettling. We met at Westside Coffee, the quiet cafe where we'd spent countless hours strategizing campaigns and sharing confidences. I've noticed a change in our friendship, I said after small talk about the weather. And in our professional relationship. I feel like you've been distant and sometimes undermining my work. Natalie stirred her latte slowly, not meeting my eyes. I think you're being paranoid, Liv. Things are just busy right now with the new organizational structure. I'm not imagining being excluded from email chains or having my ideas dismissed in meetings, I persisted. Maybe you're taking normal workplace dynamics too personally, she suggested with a condescending smile. Emily mentioned you've been stressed lately. The casual mention of discussions about me with my sister sent a chill through me. Emily and I talk about work sometimes, I acknowledged. As do we. Or at least we used to. Natalie sighed, checking her phone distractedly. Maybe if you were more of a team player like your sister, you wouldn't feel so isolated. Emily integrates with everyone, doesn't keep her ideas to herself, shares credit freely. Shares credit? I echoed incredulously. She presented my entire strategy as her own work. She told me you offered some minor suggestions, Natalie replied dismissively. Look, I think you need to reflect on why you're so threatened by your sister's success. It's not healthy, Liv. My scheduled meeting with Richard about these concerns proved equally frustrating. After waiting 20 minutes past our appointment time, I was given barely 10 minutes of his attention, interrupted repeatedly by urgent calls he somehow found time to take. I'm concerned about team dynamics and information flow, I began professionally, avoiding making the issues personal. Richard leaned back in his chair, expression bored. Olivia, every organization goes through adjustments. Change can be difficult for people who are set in their ways. This isn't about resistance to change, I clarified. It's about properly attributing work and maintaining clear communication structures. What I'm hearing, Richard interrupted, is that you're having difficulty adapting to our evolving company culture. We value collaboration over individual credit here. Perhaps you need to consider whether your approach still aligns with Pinnacle's direction. The implied threat was unmistakable. I've always been collaborative, I defended myself. But collaboration doesn't mean others presenting my work as their own. Richard's expression hardened. You seem very possessive of your work, Olivia. That's concerning in a team environment. Perhaps you should reflect on that. The meeting ended with his clear suggestion that my continued employment depended on getting along better with the team, particularly Emily. In the following weeks, the situation deteriorated rapidly. I found my client proposals altered just before presentations, with key elements removed or changed in ways that weakened the strategy. A major account I had nurtured for 2 years was reassigned to Emily without explanation, classified as a development opportunity for her growing portfolio. One evening, working late, I overheard voices from the conference room. The door was slightly ajar, and Richard, Emily, and Natalie were inside, unaware of my presence. Olivia is becoming a liability to the department, Richard stated flatly. Her resistance to our new direction is affecting team morale. It's not my fault she can't keep up with the changes, Emily replied, her tone dismissive. I've tried including her, but she's so stuck in her ways. I've talked to her multiple times, Natalie added, but she won't listen. She sees everything as a personal attack. Their casual discussion of my professional demise felt surreal. That night, I began documenting everything meticulously, saving emails, recording meetings, legal in our state. with one-party consent, and keeping a detailed journal of incidents with dates and witnesses. The next morning, I found an anonymous note on my desk. Watch your back. The childish intimidation tactic only strengthened my resolve to understand what was happening. Emily began telling colleagues I was struggling with personal issues, suggesting my increasingly isolated position was due to emotional instability, rather than systematic exclusion. When Marcus asked if everything was okay at home, I realized how effectively the narrative was spreading. The betrayal cut deepest when I discovered Natalie had revealed my confidential health information to coworkers. My occasional anxiety attacks, shared during late-night confidences, became office gossip, with concerned colleagues offering unsolicited advice about stress management. Richard began questioning my expense reports publicly during team meetings, despite them containing the same business dinners and client entertainment that had been approved without comment for years. "We need to be particularly careful with company resources," he announced, looking directly at me. "Some expenditures require additional justification." After one such meeting, Marcus waited until others had left before approaching my desk. "Something strange is happening," he confided. "There are closed-door meetings about restructuring your accounts. I thought you should know." That weekend, accessing my work files remotely, I discovered altered performance metrics in my quarterly review draft, numbers manipulated to show declining results despite our actual success. Client satisfaction ratings had been selectively edited, removing positive comments and highlighting minor concerns out of context. The coordinated effort to undermine me was now undeniable. What I couldn't yet understand was why. Was my sister's resentment so deep that destroying my career would bring her satisfaction? Was Natalie's betrayal simply opportunistic advancement? And what did Richard gain from this elaborate scheme? Needed answers, but more importantly, I needed evidence. The 3-year mark of my secret ownership was approaching, and perhaps Victoria's unusual arrangement had been more prescient than either of us could have imagined. I decided to address my concerns directly, starting with Emily. I invited her to dinner at my apartment, cooking her favorite lasagna and creating a comfortable atmosphere before broaching the subject. "I've noticed something concerning," I began, carefully. "In meetings and presentations, ideas I've shared with you are being presented as your original work. The retail strategy presentation, for example." Emily's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness in seconds. "Are you serious right now? You're supposed to be helping me succeed, not keeping score." "I am helping you," I explained. "But there's a difference between mentoring and taking credit for someone else's work. You're just jealous I'm finally succeeding at something," she snapped, pushing her plate away. "My entire life you've been the successful one, the smart one, the responsible one. The moment I start doing well, you can't handle it." "This isn't about competition," I tried again. "It's about professional ethics and respect. You've always needed to be better than me," Emily continued as if I hadn't spoken. "You couldn't stand that Mom and Dad gave me attention, so you had to excel at everything. Now you can't stand that people at work might actually like me better than you." She left before dessert, slamming my apartment door and leaving me stunned by the level of resentment beneath her words. My conversation with Natalie was equally unsettling. We met at Westside Coffee, the quiet cafe where we'd spent countless hours strategizing campaigns and sharing confidences. "I've noticed a change in our friendship," I said after small talk about the weather. "And in our professional relationship. I feel like you've been distant and sometimes undermining my work." Natalie stirred her latte slowly, not meeting my eyes. "I think you're being paranoid, Liv. Things are just busy right now with the new organizational structure. I'm not imagining being excluded from email chains or having my ideas dismissed in meetings," I persisted. "Maybe you're taking normal workplace dynamics too personally," she suggested with a condescending smile. "Emily mentioned you've been stressed lately." The casual mention of discussions about me with my sister sent a chill through me. "Emily and I talk about work sometimes," I acknowledged. "As do we. Or at least we used to." Natalie sighed, checking her phone distractedly. Maybe if you were more of a team player like your sister, you wouldn't feel so isolated. Emily integrates with everyone, doesn't keep her ideas to herself, shares credit freely. Shares credit? I echoed incredulously. She presented my entire strategy as her own work. She told me you offered some minor suggestions, Natalie replied dismissively. Look, I think you need to reflect on why you're so threatened by your sister's success. It's not healthy, Liv. My scheduled meeting with Richard about these concerns proved equally frustrating. After waiting 20 minutes past our appointment time, I was given barely 10 minutes of his attention, interrupted repeatedly by urgent calls he somehow found time to take. I'm concerned about team dynamics and information flow, I began professionally, avoiding making the issues personal. Richard leaned back in his chair, expression bored. Olivia, every organization goes through adjustments. Change can be difficult for people who are set in their ways. This isn't about resistance to change, I clarified. It's about properly attributing work and maintaining clear communication structures. What I'm hearing, Richard interrupted, is that you're having difficulty adapting to our evolving company culture. We value collaboration over individual credit here. Perhaps you need to consider whether your approach still aligns with Pinnacle's direction. The implied threat was unmistakable. I've always been collaborative, I defended myself. But collaboration doesn't mean others presenting my work as their own. Richard's expression hardened. You seem very possessive of your work, Olivia. That's concerning in a team environment. Perhaps you should reflect on that. The meeting ended with his clear suggestion that my continued employment depended on getting along better with the team, particularly Emily. In the following weeks, the situation deteriorated rapidly. I found my client proposals altered just before presentations, with key elements removed or changed in ways that weakened the strategy. A major account I had nurtured for 2 years was reassigned to Emily without explanation, classified as a development opportunity for her growing portfolio. One evening, working late, I overheard voices from the conference room. The door was slightly ajar, and Richard, Emily, and Natalie were inside, unaware of my presence. Olivia is becoming a liability to the department, Richard stated flatly. Her resistance to our new direction is affecting team morale. It's not my fault she can't keep up with the changes, Emily replied, her tone dismissive. I've tried including her, but she's so stuck in her ways. I've talked to her multiple times, Natalie added, but she won't listen. She sees everything as a personal attack. Their casual discussion of my professional demise felt surreal. That night, I began documenting everything meticulously, saving emails, recording meetings, legal in our state, with one-party consent, and keeping a detailed journal of incidents with dates and witnesses. The next morning, I found an anonymous note on my desk. Watch your back. The childish intimidation tactic only strengthened my resolve to understand what was happening. Emily began telling colleagues I was struggling with personal issues, suggesting my increasingly isolated position was due to emotional instability, rather than systematic exclusion. When Marcus asked if everything was okay at home, I realized how effectively the narrative was spreading. The betrayal cut deepest when I discovered Natalie had revealed my confidential health information to coworkers. My occasional anxiety attacks, shared during late-night confidences, became office gossip, with concerned colleagues offering unsolicited advice about stress management. Richard began questioning my expense reports publicly during team meetings, despite them containing the same business dinners and client entertainment that had been approved without comment for years. We need to be particularly careful with company resources, he announced, looking directly at me. Some expenditures require additional justification. After one such meeting, Marcus waited until others had left before approaching my desk. Something strange is happening, he confided. There are closed-door meetings about restructuring your accounts. I thought you should know. That weekend, accessing my work files remotely, I discovered altered performance metrics in my quarterly review draft. numbers manipulated to show declining results despite our actual success. Client satisfaction ratings had been selectively edited, removing positive comments and highlighting minor concerns out of context. The coordinated effort to undermine me was now undeniable. What I couldn't yet understand was why. Was my sister's resentment so deep that destroying my career would bring her satisfaction? Was Natalie's betrayal simply opportunistic advancement? And what did Richard gain from this elaborate scheme? Needed answers. But more importantly, I needed evidence. The 3-year mark of my secret ownership was approaching, and perhaps Victoria's unusual arrangement had been more prescient than either of us could have imagined. Monday morning brought the culmination of their plotting. Sandra from HR was waiting at my desk, her professional demeanor strained by obvious discomfort. "Olivia, your presence is requested in conference room A. Immediately, please." The walk down the hallway felt surreal, especially when I noticed Emily, Richard, and Natalie watching from the break room. Expressions a disturbing mix of anticipation and artificial concern. Inside the conference room, formal termination documents were arranged precisely on the table. Richard sat at the head, flanked by Sandra and the company's legal counsel, Jordan Mills. Ironically, the only person present who knew about my ownership, though his careful neutral expression revealed nothing. "Olivia, please sit down," Richard began without preamble. "This meeting is to inform you that your employment with Pinnacle Marketing is terminated, effective immediately." The surreal moment replayed in slow motion, words I had never expected to hear despite the mounting evidence of conspiracy. "We have documented serious concerns," Richard continued, sliding a folder toward me. "Financial impropriety, sabotage of team members' work, and creating a hostile work environment. Each accusation more outrageous than the last, yet delivered with such conviction that an outsider might have believed them." Sandra avoided eye contact entirely, studying her notepad with unnecessary intensity. The door opened and Emily entered, clutching a tablet and looking appropriately somber for someone about to destroy her sister's reputation. "Emily has compiled evidence we find deeply troubling," Richard explained. As difficult as this has been for her, she felt professionally obligated to report these issues. My sister, perfectly playing the reluctant whistleblower, connected her tablet to the projector. A series of emails appeared on screen, ostensibly from my account, showing unprofessional comments about clients and colleagues. I recognized altered versions of actual messages, selectively edited to change their meaning entirely. "I found these when I was accidentally copied on a client thread," Emily explained, voice cracking with rehearsed emotion. "I didn't want to believe my own sister would speak this way about our team." She continued her performance, displaying doctored screenshots of expense reports with inflated numbers alongside original receipts showing discrepancies. The fabrications were sophisticated enough that disproving them would require digital forensic experts. "I hate having to do this," Emily concluded, wiping at non-existent tears. "But after Olivia threatened my career directly, saying she would make sure I never advanced in this industry if I didn't know my place, I had to come forward." The absurdity of this claim, a conversation that never occurred, left me momentarily speechless. Before I could formulate a response, Natalie entered, completing their triumvirate of betrayal. Her testimony was perhaps the most damaging, turning 3 years of friendship into weapons against me. "Olivia has been increasingly unstable," she stated, glancing at me with manufactured pity. "She told me repeatedly she couldn't stand seeing her sister succeed, that Emily didn't deserve her position." Natalie recounted distorted versions of private conversations, transforming normal venting sessions into evidence of professional jealousy and instability. Last month, she admitted to deliberately undermining Emily's presentation to the Westridge client. Natalie continued. "She seemed proud of it, which frightened me." Richard nodded gravely, as if this confirmed his worst suspicions. "We've given you many chances to improve your behavior and performance," he addressed me directly for the first time. "Your negative attitude, refusal to collaborate, and now these ethical violations leave us no choice. He slid another document forward, a severance agreement with an aggressive non-disclosure clause. Sign this, and we can make this transition as painless as possible. 2 weeks severance in exchange for your discretion regarding internal company matters. The insulting offer finally broke my shocked silence. These accusations are fabricated, I stated calmly. I have documentation proving... We've reviewed all relevant materials, Richard interrupted. Our decision is final. Attempts to defend myself were methodically cut short. When I began detailing the timeline of manipulation, Sandra interjected with procedural objections. When I questioned the authenticity of the emails, Jordan the lawyer cleared his throat and suggested, "This isn't the appropriate forum for technical disputes." The choreography of my professional execution made one thing crystal clear. This had been planned for weeks, possibly months. Every attempt at defense was anticipated and blocked. Security waited outside, a final humiliation as I was escorted through the office I secretly owned. Colleagues watched with expressions ranging from confusion to poorly concealed satisfaction. Emily cleared her throat and looked away as I passed. Natalie studied her shoes with sudden fascination. A cardboard box containing my personal items had already been packed, pictures removed from frames, my award plaques missing, client gifts nowhere to be seen. The message was clear. My existence was being systematically erased from Pinnacle. At the elevator, the architects of my downfall couldn't resist final declarations. "This is just business, nothing personal," Emily stated, echoing a phrase I'd used when helping her prepare for tough client conversations. "You brought this on yourself," Richard added coldly. "Your inability to adapt became a liability." Natalie, at least, had the decency to look conflicted. "I'm sorry it came to this, but you left us no choice. Your behavior was affecting everyone." The elevator doors closed on their self-righteous expressions, and I maintained composure until reaching my car in the parking garage. Only then did the emotions flood through. Tears of anger, disbelief, and genuine heartbreak at such calculated betrayal from the people I had trusted most. As I gripped the steering wheel, sobs shaking my body, a strange calm gradually emerged. From the storm of emotions, they thought they had won. They believed they had destroyed me professionally and personally. They had no idea who they were really dealing with. For 3 years, I had honored Victoria's wishes, learning Pinnacle from the inside, understanding its strengths and weaknesses. Now I finally understood why her unusual ownership arrangement had been so important. She had given me the ultimate advantage: knowledge without perceived power, insight without a target on my back. Through my tears, a small smile formed. They had just fired the woman who owned every desk, computer, and client contract they relied upon. Their celebration would be extraordinarily short-lived. My apartment transformed into a command center within 24 hours. The dining table disappeared beneath ownership documents, company bylaws, and whistleblower protection statutes. The living room wall became a timeline of events leading to my termination, with photos of the key players and their connections marked in different colored strings, like something from a detective movie. After a night of processing emotions, strategic clarity emerged. This wasn't just about reclaiming my position. It was about understanding the full scope of corruption and addressing it properly. Victoria's company deserved better than leadership built on betrayal and manipulation. My first call was to Jonathan Wells, a corporate attorney unaffiliated with Pinnacle. His reputation for handling complex corporate governance issues made him ideal for my unusual situation. "Let me understand correctly," Jonathan said after I explained everything. "You're the majority owner of the company that just terminated your employment, but only the board attorney knows this fact?" "Correct," I confirmed. "The 3-year confidentiality period ends next month, but current circumstances necessitate accelerating the revelation." Jonathan's strategic mind immediately grasped the potential. "This gives you extraordinary leverage, but timing is crucial. Too soon, and they might attempt to destroy evidence. Too late, and they further entrench themselves in power. We developed a multi-phase strategy. First, gathering comprehensive evidence of their misconduct beyond my personal grievances. Second, preparing a formal presentation for the board of directors. Third, the strategic revelation of my ownership at a moment of maximum impact. Your termination may be a blessing in disguise, Jonathan observed. They believe you're neutralized, which makes them vulnerable. Overconfidence creates carelessness. My phone rang that evening. Mark is calling from a personal number rather than his work line. I had to let you know what's happening, he said, voice hushed. Emily moved into your office this afternoon. Richard called a department meeting announcing organizational improvements and your departure due to performance concerns. Natalie's been promoted to senior team lead, taking over your major accounts. How did the team react? I asked, genuinely, curious about my colleagues' perceptions. Confused, mostly. Several people questioned the narrative. You've always been incredibly competent. But Richard shut down questions quickly with vague references to information that cannot be shared due to legal considerations. Marcus continued providing invaluable insider updates in the days that followed. Meanwhile, I discovered I still had remote access to certain system areas, an oversight in their hasty termination process. This revealed a deeper conspiracy than I'd imagined. A draft organizational chart showed Emily slated for promotion to director within 3 months, then vice president by year-end, an absurdly accelerated timeline for someone with her limited experience. Richard's annual compensation document included a substantial bonus tied to department efficiency improvements, corporate language for staff reductions. Natalie's email communications revealed she'd been systematically undermining me for months, reporting out-of-context information to Richard and suggesting my projects be reassigned. More disturbing were the financial improprieties I uncovered. Client overbilling had become standard practice, with services charged but never delivered. Expense report manipulation extended beyond fabrications about my reports. Richard regularly classified personal trips as business travel. Several contracts contained language disadvantageous to clients that differed from versions they had signed, potential fraud that could destroy Pinnacle's reputation if exposed. The betrayals extended beyond professional boundaries. In Natalie's email draft folder, I found messages to my ex-boyfriend James, with whom she had apparently been involved for months while counseling me through the breakup. Emily's communications with colleagues contained disparaging comments about my work ethic, personality, and even appearance. Richard's emails included sexist remarks about female executives that would horrify the company's public relations team. With each discovery, I meticulously documented evidence, creating backup, copies stored securely with Jonathan. The picture emerging was clear. A culture of deception had taken root, with my termination merely the most visible symptom. Jonathan advised contacting board members individually rather than as a group. The element of surprise works in your favor, he explained. Individual conversations prevent them from forming a united front before hearing you out. Over the following week, I scheduled private meetings with each board member, citing serious concerns about recent management decisions, without revealing my ownership status. Their curiosity secured the meetings. My evidence would ensure their attention. The night before the emergency board meeting Jonathan had helped arrange, I prepared with the intensity of an attorney before a major trial. My presentation was meticulously organized, evidence irrefutable, and delivery rehearsed to maintain professional composure despite the personal betrayal. Standing before my bathroom mirror in rehearsal, I practiced the pivotal revelation. Before we continue, there's something important you should know. I am not just a former employee of Pinnacle Marketing. I am its majority owner. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I pursuing justice or revenge? Would Victoria approve of my approach? A deep breath centered me. This wasn't about personal vindication, but about honoring Victoria's legacy and the company she had built with integrity. The people who had conspired to remove me had demonstrated they didn't share those values. I laid out my power suit for the morning, not the one they'd seen me wear around the office, but a custom-tailored navy ensemble I'd purchased after becoming owner, but never worn. Tomorrow, I would reclaim not just my company, but my power. Sleep came surprisingly easily that night, perhaps because for the first time since my termination, I wasn't the victim of their story anymore. I was the author of what happened next. Morning sunlight streamed through my bedroom curtains as I completed my confidence-building ritual, a practice Victoria had taught me years ago. Standing tall, shoulders back, I spoke affirmations that now carried literal truth. I am capable. I am powerful. I am the rightful leader of Pinnacle Marketing. The drive to headquarters felt surreal, simultaneously familiar and transformed by my new perspective. No longer approaching as an employee, but as the owner returning to claim what was mine. I adjusted my rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of determination in my eyes that even I found slightly intimidating. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Board assembled in main conference room. Richard, Emily, and Natalie all here looking smug. Little do they know. The security guard at reception did a double take as I approached. Ms. Morgan? I thought, weren't you? I have an appointment with the board, I stated calmly, signing the visitor log with deliberate care. Walking through the open office floor created an immediate ripple effect. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Heads turned. Whispers followed in my wake. I nodded professionally to former colleagues whose expressions ranged from shock to confusion to subtle signs of support. The boardroom door was closed, but through the glass wall I could see the meeting in progress. Richard standing at the head of the table, gesturing emphatically about something on the projection screen. Board members in varying states of attention. Emily and Natalie seated against the wall, not at the table, but clearly included in this executive discussion. Without knocking, I opened the door and entered with measured confidence. Excuse me, this is a private... Richard began automatically, then froze when he recognized me. His face cycled rapidly through surprise, confusion, and settling on irritation. Olivia, this is completely inappropriate. Security will escort you out. The board members looked between us with polite confusion. Emily's face drained of color. Natalie actually spilled coffee down her blouse in shock. Good morning, everyone, I greeted the room calmly. I apologize for the unconventional entrance, but today's agenda requires my presence. You have no authority to be here, Richard stated flatly, reaching for the conference room phone. This is trespassing. Board Chairwoman Janet Williams raised her hand slightly. Before we call security, perhaps Ms. Morgan could explain why she feels this intrusion is necessary. This was the moment I had rehearsed. With perfect composure, I placed my portfolio on the table and made direct eye contact with each board member. Before we begin, I should introduce myself properly. I'm Olivia Morgan, majority owner of Pinnacle Marketing. The silence that followed was absolute. Richard's hand froze mid-reach for the phone. Emily made a small, involuntary sound of disbelief. That's impossible, Richard finally sputtered. The company was placed in a trust after Victoria Wheeler's death. I nodded to Jordan Mills, the board attorney, who cleared his throat awkwardly. Actually, Richard, Ms. Morgan is correct. The legal structure established by Ms. Wheeler did indeed transfer majority ownership to Olivia Morgan, with a 3-year confidentiality clause that I was legally bound to honor. I distributed copies of the ownership documentation to each board member. As you can see, everything is in order. Victoria wanted me to learn the company from within before assuming visible leadership. Recent events have made it necessary to accelerate the timeline for revealing this arrangement. The board members examined the documents while Richard, Emily, and Natalie exchanged panicked glances. Their entire house of cards was collapsing in real time. This is certainly unexpected, Janet stated carefully. But it appears legitimate. Perhaps we should adjust our agenda to address this development. I appreciate that, I replied, connecting my laptop to the projector. And I believe the board should be aware of several concerning practices that have developed under current management. Over the next hour, I presented methodically documented evidence of each impropriety, the financial mismanagement, client contract alterations, fabricated evidence against me, and systematic undermining of proper business practices. The board's expressions grew increasingly grave with each revelation. These emails clearly show coordination to remove me based on fabricated performance issues, I explained, displaying the communications between Richard, Emily, and Natalie. Not because of any professional failings, but because I represented an obstacle to their personal agendas. Richard attempted interruptions several times, his face reddening with each failed objection. This is a gross mischaracterization, he finally managed when I paused. Everything we did was standard business strategy. Restructuring teams for efficiency is normal corporate practice. Falsifying financial records and client contracts is not standard practice, board member Thomas Chen countered, adjusting his glasses to study the evidence more closely. Neither is coordinating false testimony against employees. Emily, seemingly unable to maintain her composure, stood suddenly. You don't understand. She's always been jealous of me. This is her revenge for finally getting recognition at work. Emily, I addressed my sister directly for the first time. The emails from your account discussing how to manipulate performance metrics and create false evidence speak for themselves. You had access to our emails? Natalie asked, horror dawning on her face as she realized the extent of their exposure. The company's systems retain everything, I explained. Nothing is ever truly deleted. The individual confrontations that followed were both painful and necessary. Richard attempted to maintain his executive demeanor, insisting his actions were justifiable business decisions rather than personal vendettas. This was just business strategy, he claimed, straightening his tie defensively. Improving departmental efficiency sometimes requires difficult personnel changes. Emily abandoned pretense entirely, tears streaming down her face, genuine ones this time. You always had everything, she cried. The brains, the success, the recognition. The one time I found something for myself, you couldn't let me have it. I helped you get hired, I reminded her quietly. I supported your career. You chose to advance by sabotaging mine. Natalie's breakdown was perhaps the most revealing. After initial denials, she eventually admitted, I was just trying to advance my career. Richard and Emily were gaining influence, and you were being pushed out. I made a strategic decision. You made a decision to betray 3 years of friendship, I corrected her. That's not strategy. That's character. The board members exchanged concerned glances throughout these confrontations. Janet finally called for order. These allegations are extremely serious, she stated. We need to discuss appropriate actions immediately. I have questions about the secretive ownership arrangement, Thomas added. While legally sound, it creates governance concerns. I explained Victoria's vision, her belief that understanding a company from different perspectives was essential to effective leadership. She wanted me to experience Pinnacle without the deference or isolation that often comes with visible ownership. To see the company's true operations, not just what people wanted me to see. Given what we've discovered today, her foresight was remarkable, Janet observed. Jordan Mills reviewed the legal implications while I outlined my plans for restructuring Pinnacle's leadership and recommitting to ethical business practices. The detailed transition plan impressed the board, demonstrating I had focused on the company's future rather than merely personal vindication. After brief deliberation, the board voted unanimously to confirm my executive authority and authorize an independent investigation into the financial improprieties. Janet then nodded to security personnel waiting discreetly by the door. Mr. Townsend, Ms. Morgan, Emily that is, and Ms. Chen will be escorted from the premises immediately, she announced. Their access to company systems has already been revoked. The symmetry of their departure, escorted through the same hallways where I had experienced that humiliation days earlier, was not lost on anyone. Emily made desperate appeals as she was led away, alternating between apologies and accusations. Richard maintained rigid silence, his career imploding. With each step, Natalie wept openly, repeatedly saying, "I'm sorry," as the elevator doors closed. The emergency staff meeting that afternoon revealed the truth to the entire company. Shock gave way to understanding as I explained the unusual ownership arrangement and recent events without villainizing individuals. Their actions spoke for themselves. Pinnacle Marketing was built on principles of integrity and innovation, I concluded. Today marks our recommitment to those values. I look forward to working with each of you to strengthen our company and serve our clients with the excellence they deserve. As employees filed out with expressions ranging from relief to excitement about the company's new direction, Marcus approached with a wide smile. "I knew something wasn't right," he said, "but I never imagined this plot twist." "Truth is often stranger than fiction," I replied, feeling the weight of the past weeks beginning to lift. "Thank you for being one of the few who stood by me." The boardroom emptied except for Janet, who lingered after others left. "Victoria chose well," she said simply. "Not many could have handled this situation with such grace." For the first time in weeks, I felt the rightness of Victoria's decision, not just her choice of successor, but her unconventional method of preparation. Through fire, I had been forged into exactly the leader Pinnacle needed. 1 month after the dramatic board meeting, Pinnacle Marketing felt like a different company. The physical space remained unchanged. Same open office layout, same conference rooms, same lobby artwork. But the atmosphere had transformed, completely. My first executive decision had been implementing a transparent leadership structure. The organizational chart was simplified and made public to all employees, with clear reporting lines and decision-making processes. Weekly company-wide updates kept everyone informed about major developments, eliminating the secretive culture that had flourished under Richard's leadership. New ethical business practice policies were instituted with an anonymous reporting system for concerns. Client contracts were reviewed and corrected where necessary, with transparent conversations about past discrepancies. Remarkably, our honesty strengthened most client relationships rather than damaging them. We value partners who prioritize integrity, our largest client's CEO told me after one such difficult conversation. It would have been easier to hide these issues. Your transparency confirms we're working with the right agency. The fates of those who had orchestrated my downfall unfolded in starkly different directions. Richard faced legal charges for financial fraud based on the investigation findings. His professional reputation was in tatters. His executive career, effectively over. Emily had landed an entry-level position at a competing agency, starting over at an appropriate level for her experience. Our parents had been shocked by the full story, initially attempting to minimize her actions as just a misunderstanding between sisters. Only after showing them the documented evidence did they begin to understand the severity of her betrayal. Natalie's repeated apology attempts filled my email inbox for weeks. Phone calls, text messages, even a handwritten letter delivered to my apartment, all expressing remorse that seemed genuine, but came far too late. I never responded. Some betrayals cannot be undone, only accepted as painful lessons about human nature. Rebuilding trust within the company became my primary focus. I scheduled one-on-one meetings with every employee, listening to concerns and ideas without defensiveness. Marcus was promoted to Senior Strategy Director, along with other loyal team members whose talents had been overlooked in the previous regime. A new mentorship program paired junior staff with experienced leaders across departments, creating growth opportunities while breaking down silos. Unlike Emily's accelerated advancement, promotions now followed transparent criteria based on demonstrated skills and consistent performance rather than favoritism. My personal healing journey proved more challenging than the professional reconstruction. Weekly therapy sessions helped process the profound betrayal by those closest to me. My therapist, Dr. Levine, specialized in relationship trauma and provided valuable perspective. "What makes betrayal so devastating," she explained during one session, "is that it doesn't just damage the relationship. It undermines your view of yourself as someone capable of judging who deserves trust." Rebuilding that self-trust became essential work. I reconnected with genuine friends who had no connection to Pinnacle, people whose support came without professional agendas. Weekend hiking trips, dinner gatherings, and honest conversations about my experience provided community when I most needed it. The family fallout required delicate navigation. My parents initially oscillated between defending Emily and expressing shock at her actions. After several tense family dinners, I finally established clear boundaries. "I can maintain a relationship with you separately from Emily," I told them over coffee one Sunday. "But I need you to respect that my professional relationship with her is permanently severed, and our personal relationship needs significant time and space to heal, if that's even possible." Their protest that family should always forgive revealed how deeply they misunderstood the situation. "Forgiveness might be possible someday," I explained. "But trust is earned through actions, not family obligation. Emily made calculated choices repeatedly over months. That requires more than a simple apology to address." Establishing these boundaries proved liberating. For the first time in my life, I defined my relationships on my terms, rather than meeting others' expectations. Pinnacle's business transformation exceeded even my optimistic projections. Client relationships strengthened through honest communication and renewed commitment to quality. The new ethical marketing initiative, focusing on transparent data practices and authentic storytelling, attracted socially conscious clients previously hesitant to work with agencies. 6 months after taking visible leadership, Pinnacle received industry recognition for our company turnaround and innovative approach to client relationships. Standing on stage accepting the award, I silently thanked Victoria for her foresight and faith in my potential. My personal growth paralleled the company's evolution. I learned to trust selectively but openly, verifying important information while not succumbing to paranoia about everyone's motives. Leading authentically meant acknowledging both strengths and vulnerabilities, creating a culture where others could do the same. The chance meeting with Natalie happened 8 months after the firing, at a coffee shop across town from Pinnacle's offices. The initial shock of seeing her gave way to a strange calmness as she approached my table hesitantly. "Olivia, I don't expect forgiveness," she began. "But I want you to know I understand now what I destroyed. Not just a friendship, but my own integrity." "Why did you do it?" I asked, the question that had haunted me despite all the evidence I'd uncovered. "At first, it was just small compromises," she admitted. "Supporting Emily occasionally seemed harmless. Then Richard started including me in executive discussions if I provided information about your projects. The power was intoxicating." She looked down at her hands. By the time I realized the line I had crossed, it felt impossible to turn back. I nodded, neither accepting her justification nor rejecting her humanity. "Actions have consequences, Natalie. That's something we all have to live with. We didn't become friends again. That bridge had burned completely. But the conversation provided closure I hadn't realized I needed. Walking away, I felt neither the burning anger nor the crushing hurt that had once consumed me, just acceptance and a readiness to focus on the future. The entire experience had taught me lessons no business school could provide. I learned that self-worth must come from within, never dependent on others' validation. I discovered the power of patience and strategic thinking when emotions demanded immediate reaction. Most importantly, I recognized that authentic relationships, personal and professional, require consistent alignment between words and actions. Sometimes the people who hurt you most give you the greatest gift, the strength to rebuild yourself. Stronger than before, the betrayal that could have destroyed my career instead transformed me into a more insightful leader and a more authentic person. By trying to tear me down, they had inadvertently revealed my true resilience. As Pinnacle continued to thrive under my leadership, I often reflected on Victoria's unusual arrangement. She hadn't just given me a company. She had created conditions that forced me to earn it, to understand it deeply, and to fight for it when necessary. That was a legacy worth honoring with every decision I made moving forward. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you rebuild afterward? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share to help others find strength in similar situations. Remember, sometimes our greatest challenges reveal our true power. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to stand tall in your own